Thank you for tuning into Roll Call. The movie you selected is Angel Eyes.
Hey everyone, welcome to Roll Call, the show where two childless millennials gush over movies and follow an actor's journey from their early years through their blockbuster hits.
Because let's face it, we still miss Blockbuster.
I know, and I would totally punch someone in the face if they ever would call me or Blockbuster a cunt. I would defend Blockbuster's honor.
That is honorable because nobody disrespects Blockbuster except
no
Netflix. Well, what's up, guys? Hi, I'm Bria, and I kind of miss voicemails that play out loud, like voice message machines.
Yeah. Kids, remember those voicemails machines? And I'm Simone. I remember a time when I too got mad when other people would touch my Power Ranger toys, but I was not a grown-ass adult.
And you know what? He got a little salty over the Green Ranger, which we all know is all about the Pink Ranger.
For sure.
So, FYI, we just wrapped up a not so many episode focused on J-Lo's first studio album and some of the major pop culture centered events during 1999 and 2000. But today, we're back onto the movies, back onto the silver screen. And in today's episode, we'll chat about who else but Jennifer Lopez in the romantic drama Angel Eyes. So let's take a trip back to May 18th, 2001.
All right. So, Bria, what was happening that year and / month? I mean, 2001 was big and eventful for many different reasons, but what were some of the things that stood out to you in 2001?
Yes. I just want to get this out of the way. 9/11.
Yeah, that's an elephant in the room for sure.
Yes. 9/11. So I have a question. Mm-hmm. Where were you, or how did you find out what was happening? Because we were kids.
Yeah, I was in 6th grade. I woke up to my mom watching the news and watching it live. And I think we had watched together the second plane hit. Because at that point it had just been one plane had hit the first tower. So we had watched that together, and I don't know, I was not processing it, I think, because we didn't have close family. Well, we do have family who live in New York, but not anyone who works in that district. And so I just didn't really understand what was happening. I think at first we all thought it was an accident. But then when that second plane hit, we realized that it was something bigger. I did go to school that day, but I know a lot of people did not go to school. And I think that they gave everyone a free pass if they wanted to stay home. Like, everyone had an excused absence. What about you?
I was in 4th grade. I remember them being very vocal about what was happening. I don't remember exactly what they were saying, but I woke up because of that. I wasn't woken up like normal. And then explanation, so no understanding. Luckily, my teacher at the time kind of took a moment to explain to our class. I think he understood, some of us would understand and some of us wouldn't. But it's definitely our challenger type moment, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely.
Being what's going on in the world. So just a moment for all the people who lost their lives in 9/11 and all the firefighters and emergency people who were heroes and also lost their lives as well. But just a cultural shift, so
Absolutely.
much changed.
Totally. I feel like as we have gotten farther, not removed, but farther past that year, the more anniversaries that pass, we really put our world into this category of pre and post 9/11 world. And
all right. So unless heavy topics of 2001. I tried to do some weird, funky stuff because The Wedding Planner was also 2001. So we've kind of covered some stuff, some more traditional pop culture stuff. But courtesy of pop-culture.us website, here's some facts that I found that were like, the iPod. Such a big change. Such a big change. No longer are you carrying around your boombox, maybe, or your Discman, or maybe your Walkman. No, MP3 players are. We talked about the invention of the MP3 player before. I mentioned it before, but the iPod is like the serious, like, wow. We can put a decent amount of music on this and I can take it wherever I want, and it's not huge and it's not bulky, and I don't have to bring CDs or cassette tapes with me. What? So the second, another thing I thought was interesting that is very ironic now is that Rudy Giuliani was named Times Man of the Year.
Oh, boy. Woof, woof, woof.
Like, Rudy G, you fucked up, man.
You fucked up. Well, I can see why his response to 9/11, like that's probably why.
That together.
Yeah, like because he like really banded together or like worked really hard to unite New York and like stay strong for New York. So I can understand that now, but it's like with all the stuff that has happened, 4 seasons and hair, diarrhea, poop dripping down the side of his face, Borat. Oh, good Lord. Yeah. And so stuff. It's like, oh my God, you've fallen from grace.
Yes. So I was like, I gotta put that. Simone, I thought you would appreciate this as a cat lady. The world's first cloned cat, Cece, short for carbon copy or copycat, was born in December of 2001. And I know we talked about the first cloned sheep, right? Or was it?
It was a sheep because I said Dalai Lama. But it's a sheep, Dolly the sheep.
All right. So the next pop culture bit was the first song featured on the very first Kids Bop was All Star by Smash Mouth, which is so timely.
That song slaps forever. So Kids Bop came out in 2001. I guess
I'm guessing so, yeah.
That would have followed like the Now That's What I Call, even though the Now That's What I Call music still makes albums, but Kids Bop.
Kids Bop still does.
Yep. They sure do.
I sent you the lyrics to the Kids Bop WAP.
Yes.
Also, in 2001, Neopets was the 4th most trafficked website on the internet. Preteens everywhere were just getting their Neopet on, and I definitely knew some Neopet girls in middle school. So,
were you one of them?
No, I still don't really know what a Neopet is.
Quite honestly, me either.
Another interest of ours, Chandra Levy goes missing.
Oh my God. Yeah. So that's one of those things that I had heard about. And I heard like either SNL doing some parodies or some websites that I had no business being on because they were way too adult for me, but I still would go on them anyways. Just out of like morbid curiosity would talk about them. And so I remember I had said something out loud, like whether it was a joke or an off-colored comment about Chandra Levy. And my mom was like, I'm sorry, what? How do you know about that? And she was just like, everything you just said is wrong. You have no idea what you're talking about. And they tried to shelter me from that one. But as an adult, I've listened to many a rabbit hole podcasts and theories and crime shows about her case. You too?
I've only seen, I believe like last year or the year before, ID or Oxygen or somebody like along with Lacey Peterson did a newer thing on her case. And that was the first time I really heard about it as an adult. She's like one of those names that you always heard about, like new update or maybe, breakthrough in the Chandra Levy case, just like Lacey Peterson or, those kind of
John Benet
infamous
Ramsey too.
John
Like they were
Benet,
household names.
Casey
Yeah.
Anthony.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in my last pop culture fact, always and forever a Harry Potter fact, because the boy who lived was dominating in the late 90s, 2000s. Mattel sold a Harry Potter Nimbus 2000 flying broom that vibrated when kids rode it. And so they pulled it from stores after adult stores began selling the toy.
Oh
no! Which I feel like obviously most Harry Potter fans now are adults. Maybe bring back the Harry Potter vibrating
maybe we
wands.
should look for one on eBay. You can tickle my snitch anytime.
In other news, we also like to go through movies that came out the same month as the movie we're talking about, as well as maybe some big blockbusters from the same year. Simone, I'm going to invite you to scroll down if you haven't.
Yes.
Also, there's a link to just a overview of movies from 2001 because there were so many amazing, like, memorable movies from 2001 I couldn't pick.
Oh, so, I know. I saw this list and was like, everything about this list is great.
Let's go over the movies that came out with Angel Eyes. One of your faves, The Mummy Returns.
My daddy.
Yeah, it came out May 4th, so a little bit before. Original Sin, which looks like Angelina Jolie and Antonio Banderas, which I'm very curious about. I might have to watch that.
Yeah.
A Knight's Tale, R.I.P. Heath Ledger. This movie is probably one of Heath Ledger's like movies that women were like,
oh yeah.
fawning over him.
For sure. I actually use clips of this movie when we talk about medieval world history. Like when we get to our knight section, I pull up little like the clips of him jousting.
Oh, really?
And this was the first like historical fictional movie that I saw that put in like modern music with it. That it wasn't so much and doesn't whatever. But love that movie. So good.
And then also in May, Shrek, the classic.
Same weekend.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
Why is it not? Okay. Movie Web, you're lying to me. Shrek came out same weekend. Pearl Harbor, Ben Affleck's big leading man sort of. Well, actually, when did Armageddon come out? Because that was big for him too.
Armageddon would have been like 98.
Okay, yeah. But I remember Pearl Harbor being a big deal. Like that's definitely a movie that parents were like, we're renting this.
Yep.
Another classic, Moulin Rouge.
I was just talking about that movie this morning. It's so good.
Which gave us the classic Lady Marmalade. A remake, which already existed thanks to LaBelle and Patti LaBelle. And then last but not least, Danny DeVito and Martin Lawrence. And what's the worst that could happen? I don't think I've seen that Martin movie, but I'm sure it looks like it could be a lot of funny hijinks. So scrolling through the movie releases of 2001, anything new that we didn't mention that pops out that you're like,
okay, so I remember, I could talk about this whole page for like an entire hour, but Sorcerer's Stone, Fellowship of the Ring, Spirited Away, Royal Tenenbaums, Bridget Jones' Diary, the first Fast and the Furious. How little did we know of that movie would just keep on giving for decades later. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Scary Movie, Jurassic Park 3, Rush Hour 2. I just want to read these all. They're so good. Legally Blonde, Bubble Boy, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, Spy Kids, why not?
Princess Diary,
Zoolander.
We have some Oscar winners and nominees. Training Day, Ali for Will Smith, Monsters Ball for Halle Berry, which Training Day and Monsters Ball were historic Oscar wins.
Yeah, just so many.
Do yourself a favor, go look up movies that came out in 2001 because you won't be disappointed.
Yes.
All right, so moving on, since you don't want to drone on with all the amazing movies that came out. I saw on Twitter a tweet from this like retro account I found follow about the top video rentals of it was like 1980 something. And I was like,
Oh.
oh, that would be amazing to find that information for the podcast.
Mhm.
So did a little digging, and Variety had a list of top VHS movies of 2001.
Uh-huh.
And The Wedding Planner and The Cell are in the top 50. The Wedding Planner is at 16 and The Cell is at 50, which props to
Oh,
J-Lo.
nice.
Which made me go back to a quote that I read in her interview from Playboy in 2000, where she says that after Anaconda, Selena, and Out of Sight, Puff Daddy, P.
Mhm.
Diddy, you said to her that you are big on cable and video, baby, big. So, so I thought that was indicative of that despite like some of those movies not doing so well, like Out of Sight was technically a flop, but critically really good. It's, she still did very well in terms of movie rentals, which is was a big part at that time of also being a movie star. And that's how you get cult classics and stuff like that. So I thought that was an interesting take. So despite what the critics say, you might be a hit on home video.
Yeah.
And so what did the box office do for Angel Eyes?
All right. Well, this was not one of her most successful movies, and it did not make the top movie rentals of this year at all. It had a budget of $53 million, and I think at least $8 million of those dollars went to Jennifer Lopez. She's
not a big.
Yeah, she almost wasn't cast because the original budget did not want to pay her what she had demanded for an $8 million salary. But they eventually budged and paid her that. So $8 million of that went to Jennifer Lopez. After opening weekend, which closed on May 20th, grossed a total of $9.2 million, and worldwide total gross internationally collective with the United States was $29.7 million.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's not good.
So was this a box office bomb, but maybe critically acclaimed?
Well, this has a lot of mixed reviews. So let's first see what Lil Raj thinks.
I was waiting on it.
Would you like to guess out of 5 stars? How many stars does Lil Raj give this?
2.5.
Not too far off. 3 out of 5 stars.
Oh, that was my second guess.
Really? So I really would have thought I did not read his review until after I watched the movie, because I did that before where I would read his reviews first or like while I was watching it and would kind of let it taint my view or persuade my opinion. I was surprised that he gave this a generous 3 stars, because you and I are going to probably have some pretty similar opinions of what we actually think about this movie. But he has some interesting points, I think, overall about the movie. So he starts his review by saying that Jennifer Lopez is the real thing, one of those rare actresses who can win our instinctive sympathy, that she can play a tough cop who does everything she can do to wall out the world, yet always seems worthy of trust and care. And that Lopez kind of constructs her character, Sharon Pogue, not out of spare parts from old cop movies, but in specific terms. She's a good cop from a technical point of view, firm, confident, and brave. She wants to do well and punish evil, and only gradually do we learn that her orientation towards this career may have been formed early, when she calls the cops on her abusive father. So he says that her character is not basically like not contrived of old tropes from cop movies, but rather put together and constructed on her own terms, and that she kind of makes her character her own. Another thing that he says that I kind of agree with is that Angel Eyes is a cop movie, but its real story doesn't really involve the police. It involves damaged lives and the possibility that love can heal. I'm going to wait to say how he ends this review. Because I want to loop it all back once we get to the overall and talk about the actual ending of this movie. Because he brings something up that I was like, yes, Lil Raj, I totally agree with that.
All right, so how many pumps of butter were you giving Angel Eyes?
I think I would get a small popcorn with like a good solid 1 pump. So enough butter to cover the top of my kernels, but not have it completely saturate.
Oh, 1 pump.
I know.
Damn.
What about you?
So for me, and we'll talk about this when we get to the trailer, but for me, this is a Pop Secret Orville Redenbacher home movie. Popcorn. So
you're not even going like full good movie theater popcorn. You're going to deduce this all the way down to a Orville Redenbacher Pop Secret.
No, that depends on your opinion of popcorn. Or just on the stove popcorn or a little Jiffy Pop. I don't know. Basically, I'm eating popcorn at home. I'm not at the theater, so there's no pumps of butter, but I might give it like 2 chops of butter from the stick of butter to a little extra. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Would you go a full bag or would you do one of those little mini ones?
Full bag.
Okay.
Full bag. Okay. All right. So, in case you haven't seen Angel Eyes, let's do a little summary. Okay. So, basically, we meet Sharon, Jennifer Lopez's character. She's a cop. She's really tough. She's not from New York, but she's a cop in Chicago, so still a tough city. Mm-hmm. She likes to wrangle her bad guys. Seems like she has some anger to take out. Mm-hmm. We also, first off, we see her help like in this accident. We don't know who she's helping or what happened really, but then we fast forward. Then we also meet Ketch eventually, who's this guy who seems like he might be homeless, seems a little like kind of touched by Angel-esque, like he has this aura about him that he's like above all things. Also kind of reminded me of like somebody you would see on an episode of Charmed.
Okay. Yeah.
But so he's just roaming around, kind of not living a life, but also just conveniently always there at the right moment. And he has this thing with Jennifer Lopez where he's there when the diner gets shot up by these hooligans who knows why they did that, but I guess fuck the cops, fuck the police was on their agenda that day. And they notice each other and they keep just kind of having these interactions, but she runs after a suspect and then he's conveniently there to get the guy out of the way when he is about to like shoot. He already shot her, but might fatally shoot her. And so he in a way saves her life. And then she invites him for a drink. They meet, talk. She gives him a ride home. They kiss. And then they start this getting to know each other phase. So all the while they're getting to know each other, she's trying to figure him out. He's kind of trying to figure her out. We learn about her family issues. We get a little bit more of his backstory. And basically they fall in love. And yeah, that's the gist of Angel Eyes. How'd I do?
You did pretty well. I think it's a movie that could be slightly confusing, I think, and I definitely can't wait to get into this when we talk about the trailer. But if you watch the trailer versus the movie, they are 2 very different things. And so I think as someone can like watch the movie, I think there were lots of times where I was questioning what element of this movie are we getting. I think it teeters the line. We normally, I think overall people would categorize this as a drama romance, but other people felt like it could have fallen in some kind of supernatural realm, or rather than romance, that it's just more of like a thriller suspense with a little bit of romance in there. I don't know, but you nailed it. The way that these two characters meet is almost in a serendipitous way, and then what comes out at the end, which I don't know, we all kind of called from the beginning, how their paths actually had crossed once prior before, comes out. And so let's dive into the 6 degrees of J Lo, and what she had to say and what some of the other actors had to say about this film.
So I know that Jennifer Lopez actually reached out to Jim Caviezel. I'm not sure, I'm sorry if I'm butchering his last name, but reached out to the actor who plays Ketch and wanted him to play this role. Allegedly, though, Aaron Eckhart was prior casted. And then also in a non-serendipitous way, but very close call, Ben Affleck was a potential to play Ketch. Also, James Marsden, which I could totally see. The other two, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, glad they didn't choose them. James Marsden, I could, but he declined this to do X-Men. So
Yes.
Good choice, James. And so I thought that was interesting. I, of course, noticed Jeremy Sisto, who plays her brother, Larry Sr. from Clueless. And I was like, look at Elton. Look at him, still being a dick. Also, Terence Howard, he is Black famous. And he's like kind of normal famous. He was in an Oscar-nominated, Oscar-winning too, film, Hustle and Flow. Did not buy him as a cop though. So
yeah,
like, it's not your thing, sir. I also noticed her mother, played by Sonia Braga, was in an episode arc on Sex and the City. She played Samantha, Kim Cattrall's character. She played a lover of hers who was this like really hot Spanish Latina artist, and they had like a lesbian love affair. And then that's the most I've got as far as cast opinions and thoughts. For the most part, I think it was well cast, besides Terrence Howard. So
I like Terrence Howard. He's been in so many movies, and I thought for this role he was really soft. Maybe it's just because I've seen him play not a villain, but just kind of an asshole.
Yeah, he's like usually a slimy, like cocky kind of like character, and that's maybe that's just a bias I had. I can see past his typical role, so I'm just like, I don't. And he had an element of that, like when he came to her apartment when she had been calling out of work, and he was like, what's going on? Oh, and she was talking about dating. He was like, well, if it's service you need. And I was just like, ugh.
Yeah. Well, and I think Jennifer Lopez's character, Sharon, being what looked like the only woman on her team or in her department or sector, like received a lot of sexual harassment. So I'm like, Terrence Howard, hey, Robbie, like you were married. He came over and was like he has he's a child on the way. So it's like, who are you kidding? But other than that, I felt like his character was very much more softer and apathetic than Jennifer Lopez's. She was very hard, but that's because we got her background story. We kind of know why she is so hard with some of these criminals, and why she might have a little bit of anger issue. So
and I think being a female cop too, you kind of have to be in a way.
Yep, guard's up.
But I noticed that her like coworker group was primarily men too, and I was just like, is this intentional that the cops surrounding her are also very male?
Yeah. I wonder how different the dynamic would have been if Terrence Howard's character would have been played by another woman, but had that same kind of like demeanor, caring, like checking in on you demeanor.
Yeah, or if there was just like one in like when they go to the bar or when they're at the diner to be
Yeah.
like, you know, her girlfriend, like, hey, are you good? Like, you know, I know how it can be. But moving on from that, any other thoughts about the cast?
No, I thought the parts were casted pretty well. I think that Jim Caviezel now does not look like, personally, I'm so sorry. I don't think he has aged as well, but his character Catch had me feeling a little bit of a way. Maybe it's just like the bangs and the shag and kind of the weird mystery. Like there was something about his smile. He had a very sweet and endearing smile that kind of reminded me of Eddie Redmayne a little bit. But he played Jesus Christ in Passion of the Christ, which would have been, I think, after. And so I found myself like when I was watching it, looking at him, because I did not see Passion.
I haven't either.
And so I was trying to like look at him and like picture Jesus. And as a Jew who like really does not know too much about Jesus, just from what he looks like based on biblical paintings and pictures that I've seen, I was like kind of dumbstruck, like trying to picture it. So maybe it's time that I have to like settle down and watch The Passion.
Should we watch it together?
I feel like I need to watch it with someone because it is very anti-Jew.
Yeah, so Passion of the Christ came out in 2004. So
duh. Yeah, that would have been after.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see what came out around that time. But it was a huge movie. I, for some reason, always thought Mel Gibson played Jesus. But I'm just realizing that he, like, produced it or something. Like,
I think direct and produced, yeah.
Okay, because it's like Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ. So I was surprised to read that Jim Caviezel played Jesus. And I was like, what? I don't think he's aged badly. I just think he doesn't look how he did when he was younger.
Yeah, I agree.
So he looks like a totally different person to me. Like I wouldn't be like, oh, that's Catch from Angel Eyes. I'm like, sorry to this man. Who's this man? So the movie Catch, like he's attractive, but I'm not really into shaggy hair. I'm like, if your hair is going to be long, it needs to be like a good length. It can't be like a weird in between. And I know we grew up in the era of like the shaggy, like I just saw a photo set of like, if the Zoomers bring back this look, then kill me. But it was like boys with that shaggy, like kind of, their hair is like mid-length kind of bowl cut, and it's kind of flipping out. Like the JT was a picture. So JT from Degrassi.
Yes.
And they had on like puka shells. And
yep.
It was like, if this comes back, shoot me. So that hairstyle is not like my jam from that time. But
yes. It kind of reminds me of like an early Ellen DeGeneres cut.
Yeah.
Like that's what it was. It's the early short bob flipped out Ellen DeGeneres cut.
Yes, and like pre-Bieber's version of that. It didn't curl out. Or Jesse McCartney, he had one of those. But anyways, so I watched like footage of them on the red carpet for the premiere, and he has a regular kind of haircut then, and I was like, oh, you cleaned up nicely. So he's more good looking to me with that haircut than in the movie, but still very attractive.
Yeah.
So talking about seeing interviews, there's not a lot, which makes me think partly one that Jennifer Lopez just had so much other shit going on and so much more popular shit going on that a lot of media or interviews and stuff didn't center around this movie. And I couldn't find anything besides like a few Associated Press things with her.
Yeah.
And then there's more stuff with James, I feel like, than her about Angel Eyes.
Agreed, which is kind of interesting because she is first billed. She is without a doubt the star of this movie. But I bet you're right that that has to do with more of her personal life, and that knowing that this was not a big of a hit as The Wedding Planner and some of her like previous stuff that she just did with The Cell, and then we're going to get her next major motion picture that we'll get into is Enough. Angel Eyes was kind of this like weird in between phase and probably one of her lesser known smaller movies. So
Yeah.
I can understand why she wasn't around, or it's hard to find those kinds of interviews.
Yeah, I wonder if it suffered too because of that, like because she didn't do enough promo for it. Because obviously, yeah, The Wedding Planner came out this year, but JLo, the album came out. So she's
Uh-huh.
definitely out promoting that, doing performances and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff for that. So I wonder if Angel Eyes just kind of fell to the wayside in
Oh,
terms
for
of,
sure. I think it fell to the back burner and she was really working more on promoting her music.
yeah. One thing I did find interesting from one of the interviews, which I love talking about, you could just call me the sex scene sheriff, is is James talking about shooting the sex scene and how Jennifer said it seems like, and I think she said this too, it seems like she gets a lot of actors' first sex scenes. So she likes to ask questions and like try to, make it kind of not as awkward as it can be. I thought that was funny because I do have opinions on this sex scene.
Oh, I do too. But you know what we get, baby? Jennifer Lopez kind of in a bikini. Mm?
We
Mm?
do.
Mm?
Yes, but not on a beach with loads of money. This is not
No,
that movie.
no, it is.
But
It's like,
I'm not mad at her jumping into a nice body of water from above. Like
yeah.
that's a nice visual.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's not too much to talk about interview wise, even magazine wise. Like when they meant like 2001, when they mentioned like, oh, she's just working on this, or she just had this movie. Angel Eyes is never really brought up. So sorry to this movie.
I think in 2001, if I was on the red carpet, I would have asked her more just about the stunt work for this movie.
Yeah.
Because she did do a lot of her own stunts, which was a fact that I found on IMDb. So that she did a lot of her own stunts, and like scaling the wall or scaling fences and climbing over stuff like that. The foot chase stuff, that's all her. And I thought this was the first cop role that we've seen her in that I have really appreciated. Like this was the cop role that I wanted in Out of Sight and Money Train, and it was just so awesome to see her be so badass and not shit taking.
Yeah, I have a note about I was like, I kind of am loving like bad attitude.
I love bad attitude, J-Lo, chip on the shoulder.
Also, I would ask her, why does she keep doing cop roles? Like, this is her third one. She eventually goes on to do Shades of Blue, the TV series. So that would be 4. And I'm not sure with movies and stuff we haven't seen yet in between then if there's another one. But I just find that interesting. Like that's a theme that we've discovered with some of her choices. And I will say though, she has not played the same kind of cop twice.
Yes.
They're all different.
There's a lot of variation. Oh, for sure. Yeah, the variation has been really great. And I really liked this. I don't want to say like fresh take on it, but she's like, yeah, it's just so different from Money Train, where she was just more of like the sexual object between 2 other male cops. And then in Out of Sight, she's an FBI agent.
Federal marshal.
Thank you, federal marshal. And like badass, like is really good at like detective work and tracking George Clooney down. And for a good majority of Angel Eyes, she's in a full police officer's uniform and she looks fucking good in it. So I really liked it.
Oh, one thing I do want to say. So, in one of the interviews, it's James and then the director and maybe the writer, I think, of the
Mm-hmm.
movie. And they very much commend her commitment to like the role and playing like the tough character and doing her stunts. And they kind of, I don't know, I feel like this is because at this time, obviously, JLo came out and she had kind of has this reputation a little bit of now being a diva and stuff, but they're like very adamant to be like, oh, there it wasn't about the drama or the glamour and stuff, and she like went very simple and like she's beautiful, so you can't deny that, but like, you know, she really did the work for this role, and I thought that was interesting that they were
Yeah.
saying that. And this far in her career, because I feel like if anything, like we've watched so many movies at this point that she's proven herself to be an actress, like she's
Yes.
very capable, but to have the director and stuff say that, I feel like they're trying to help her in a way ditch this reputation now that she has kind of garnered because of other things, really, not even acting stuff, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's very like tomboyish in this movie and kept makeup and hair fairly simple. So, with
So,
that
how do
being
you feel
said,
about blonde JLo? Sorry.
no, that's what exactly I was going to. You read my mind. I was like, let's talk about this. So, I like Lo as a honey blonde. I think it really and you're shaking your head, which is okay, but I like the way that it complements her skin tone. Over it's not my favorite, but I think it's a look that she can do well. Later on, as she gets older, she's gotten a lot more, maybe not platinum, but I like the honey blonde. I think it makes her very like soft, a little bit juvenile, and I wonder if that was intentional, um, because it is a little angelic, I think, of this. Makes her very soft.
I am not a fan of this blonde on her. And yes, as time has gone on, she's definitely consistently been lighter haired than in the 90s. I'm more of a like the light browns with like highlights here, but not so like she's completely blonde ish in
Mm-hmm.
this movie. And I
Mm-hmm.
think to me, it makes her paler.
Hmm.
And I do think it helps play down her beauty a little bit. And it makes her look a bit average. Like it looks like
Oh, okay.
she's a
Yeah.
cop who goes to a salon in Chicago and gets her hair dyed, not a movie
Yeah.
star who gets amazing highlights from the top hairstylists in the city. But yeah, that's my opinion. Sorry, on the
No.
blonde.
Don't
And
apologize. And actually, now that you say it, that's true. It does kind of wash her out in skin tone. I thought like it brought out more of her like olive complexion. But actually looking back at pictures from her in Selena and Anaconda, like more late 90s, she did look a lot more tan. And I do actually prefer a curly haired or wavy haired Jennifer Lopez, more natural. So I don't know what the choice was having her hair be the color that it was for this movie, but I thought it was cute. I thought it made her eyes pop a little bit, but
let's talk about her performance since we've talked about her looks.
yes. Well, as we said earlier, this is the cop character that I've been wanting. I it was really she's tough but sweet. It felt good.
Really? You think she's sweet?
Well, I mean, I think she's tough, but she has that maybe the vulnerability piece of because of her upbringing and being a child of living in an abusive household and witnessing that and having to call the cops on her own father to save her mom. I think it is a very traumatic experience to go through. But I think that when she's with Ketch, we see some of that innocence kind of come out, and that she can learn that relationships can be very sweet, even though he was very mysterious and very complicated, which we'll get to in that overall plot. But I really loved seeing her like arrest people. Like anytime a delinquent had tried to sweet talk her or like in a very demeaning and disgusting way, she kicked, she punched, she elbowed, and I was all for that.
Yes, the knee to the head. I wrote a note about that. I was like, ooh, that knee to the head though. I agree a lot with like your opinion on her interpretation this time, or her role. I'm not sure how the character was written, but the toughness of the character. I think that I know I was like, you think she's sweet, but I think that the mysteriousness that you said that Ketch has is like, because we see her on a date with someone and she's just like, oh, I don't want to do the whole, like, here's my life story, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I think the mysteriousness of Ketch kind of tingles her cop like senses in a way where she's like, I got to figure this guy out. And so I feel like that helps keep her interested and makes her like, because she could totally be like, okay, leave this weirdo alone. Like he saved my life, but he's a little on the weird side.
Yeah.
But I appreciated her performance. I don't think her performance is the reason this movie did poorly or was received poorly. And I feel like at this point, most people are like, you guys just like Jennifer Lopez at this point. But going into this, I wasn't expecting the kind of performances we've got from her acting wise, like, and I'm impressed. So I feel like at this point, there's no need to prove like how good of an actress she is or can be. And if anything, Homegirl is consistent. Like, and I think obviously a lot of actors have hits and misses, like even some of the biggest movie stars like have flops. So it's just sometimes other things don't work out well within the movie. You know, there's so many people playing into how a movie turns out. Her performance to me isn't what makes even nobody's performance, honestly. I just think the movie in general is just kind of written and put together in a weird way.
I'm snapping. Yes.
But in comparison to her other roles, like how do you feel about outside of the other roles of her as a cop, since we've talked about that? But
out of all of her roles that we've seen, this falls pretty far to the bottom, but I don't think that that's her fault. I think you're right. It is not the acting that is problematic in this movie. My third note down as I'm watching this, I think this was after Ketch had saved her and they had that first exchange like up in her apartment. And I said, iffy dialogue, ? Kooky characters, ? Or is it bad writing, ? Like I just, at like 20 minutes into it, I couldn't tell if it was weird writing or dialogue or just like strange off characters like Ketch, which personally people like that like crawl under my skin because I need someone to be straightforward with me. And so the fact that she like used her detective or police working skills to like really get to the bottom of it, like good for her, because I'd be like, I don't have time for this bullshit. Like,
yes. Same. I feel like is it at the bottom for me? I just feel like overall, I said like in the beginning, actually, like this is the second note I have after being like, why does she keep playing cops? I said that this reads like a TV movie and like,
yes,
like a Lifetime movie or something. And I feel like I've seen Angel Eyes on TV before, like, you know, as scrolling through like the guide or, you know, something like that. And I feel like it was shot like that. The cinematography to me isn't very impressive in a way. It feels cheap. Like for a $53 million movie. it doesn't feel like that expensive.
No.
And I'm glad J-Lo fought for her check because she deserved it for her performance. It's not her fault. But I'm also intrigued because a lot of times, obviously, actors read scripts and they like are impressed with the script to do a movie. And J-Lo has said before that she never wants to just do movies for money. Like she wants to do movies because there's something about it that intrigues her. You know, there's a connection somehow. So I don't think she did this movie for the check either. So I'm wondering, like, script wise, what drew them to this movie, and like if the script was more interesting than how they shot it and stuff like that. Because I know the writer of The Cell, he was disappointed with how visually it turned out.
Yes.
So there's always those kind of discrepancies that you never know, like may happen or not.
Yes. No. I completely agree. I think this movie would have been a lot different, even if the dialogue was the same, which there's very, very weird dialogue exchange in this where I'm like, oh God, I feel like so socially awkward just watching this. My skin is crawling. But I think even if this movie might have been pieced together differently or shot differently, or even just like rather committed to a sad romance a la The Notebook, than have it try and struggle and grapple between these lines of like cop movie, romance movie, and thriller movie in a kind of a weird way, because there were some thrill elements to it as J-Lo is, or Sharon Pogue is trying to like figure out who Catch is. And so I think that this movie would have been better served if they just committed to one kind of avenue. Stuck with that.
I think like if we do away with some of the other cop elements of it, then it won't feel like, okay, she's a cop, we're watching a cop movie. Wait, no, okay, now cops falling in love. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with that.
No. Yeah, it's like this movie is what it is. I think it to talk about some of the and maybe this episode might just be a little bit shorter just because there might not be that much to say about this movie other than like it could have been better. Writing was off, characters were off. But I think we should bring up the trailer because I think that's what added to a lot of people's confusion when seeing this movie, compared to like, or at least seeing the trailer and then having kind of a different outcome for what the movie actually is.
I will say that unlike all the other times we talk about trailer, I don't feel like the trailer gives completely away the movie.
Yes, agreed.
I think we're getting maybe to that space where it's like, ooh, like what could this be about? Is that deceiving, you think?
No, I don't. But the way it's kind of like, have you seen those YouTube remakes of trailers where they'll do like a supercut of Mrs. Doubtfire or Home Alone or Frozen, like if Frozen was a scary movie or if Mrs. Doubtfire was a scary movie, and like all they do is just add different music to it.
No, I haven't seen those. But...
Oh my gosh, I recently did use those in writing in my class where the students are writing a project called a companion book where they write a book about their favorite book, and part of it is getting more into like creative writing. So I try and do like, imagine if you could like authors are very purposeful in the tone and mood that they put in their books, just like how movies are. I was like, movies that are family fun and uplifting are going to have some kind of an emotional score or happy score that leaves you like feeling glad and happy when you leave the theater. And then scary movies have a more suspenseful score and they're more purposeful in their instruments that they use and the timing and rhythm for their songs and the quiet parts and the loud parts for that jump scare factor. And so I showed them some of those trailers and they're really funny. But my point to this is I feel like this trailer is misleading. And one thing that I discovered is that I don't know if you watch this channel on YouTube called Watch Mojo, but this made it on, they do like top 10 lists. And so Watch Mojo included this on the top 10 most misleading trailers. which it didn't actually make the top 10, but it was in the honorable mentions list. And I agree. I feel like the way that they set this trailer up, they still showed the car crash scene at the beginning, and Jennifer Lopez's kind of like gritty cop background, and her and Terence Howard's character getting or chasing down the two criminals and then saving her life. But the way that the trailer then goes is it makes it seem like a thriller crime drama suspense over a drama romance, because once they find out what Ketch's actual name is when they go out on that date, and he they go to that jazz club and he plays the trumpet, and then people start to recognize him. That's when she can put his name into the database. And that was the scene that they chose to look at, of like searching his name up in database. It's like, this guy is a ghost. He doesn't pop up anywhere. Yeah. Like, how do you know you're getting? And so I felt like they were making it seem almost Sixth Sense-esque. Like, we don't know if this guy actually exists, if she's crazy, or if he himself has some kind of a sketchy, shady past that he might be hiding to protect his identity.
Or like, is he an angel? Angel eyes.
Yes, because he watches over her, he saves her life, and like keeps on finding her in these serendipitous ways. So yes, so I don't know. I would agree with Watch Mojo's choice. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are after this episode if you go back and rewatch the trailer.
I was just happy that it didn't give away everything. I was like, it's not bad. I will say though that, like, talking about her looking him up in the system, let's talk about like their love story for a little bit, because there are like red flags all around for me, because it just, like, I understand what they were trying to do, but I feel like the way they went about it is a flaw of the movie and why it didn't work well, because it just happened so quickly. And for a cop to be so trusting of someone she doesn't really know like that, and who gives off this weird vibe, like for her to bring him back to her place, like the first like go around, I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And then like because why would you do that? Because now he knows where you live. I know you're a cop and you can probably handle your own shit, but still sketchy. Yeah. And it so much just happened so fast for her to not know a lot about him. So Terrence Howard's concerns are understanding, but it just doesn't seem realistic either for her to do that.
Agree.
So I was on the like, okay, like my suspension of disbelief was waning. I was like, I want this to happen because I feel like something good is going to come of this, like for both of them. But like the timeline, and I think if we got rid of some of the cop stuff, we could have had a better romance timeline.
Yes.
But the system, when she was able to look him up, I was just like, oh, you know how many women would die to be able to like plug in a guy's name and be like, oh, okay, he's not crazy, he doesn't have any priors. Like,
and like, with someone who only has like limited knowledge of true crime shows and podcasts and a little bit of CSI, like I have no reference point to how those database systems actually work, but I'm pretty sure it's not like that where it's like dee, 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 and like a bunch of the green script comes out. I mean, granted, that's also like old school computer system stuff, but like, you know, a clear picture of this person's driver's license and their bio and all that stuff. Like, I don't think that's how it works. But
so do you watch First 48 by chance on A&E? So cops do have like a database and stuff.
Oh yeah,
I think CSI
Codex,
dated us all.
CODIS, I think is what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah, CSI jaded us all, though, in thinking we knew everything about forensics and stuff like that, because they will like take a pixelated video and be like, can you like clarify that and stuff and make it look like HD? And they cannot do that like that. Nope. Maybe now because cameras have gotten better. But I do think that the system is kind of realistic because at least on First 48, they definitely like and I'm sure just in general, like your DMV info will pop up. Like if they look for you, like everyone has a license or ID of some, or most people do. And, you know, they have access to that for a reason. But I know on First 48, they also seem to be able to search. And if you have priors or you're like, if you've been booked before and stuff, that will come up. And so most of the time it's people's like mugshots and like it has information like their street name or like stuff like that. So for 2001, this might be like semi-realistic pipe dream, but I think for the most part it's not that bad. But it's just like, I wish she would have done that earlier. Like I know she didn't have his name, but like she didn't look him up. Terence Howard's character did. So she had like no concerns. And it's like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, let's continue to talk about some of those red flags, which I'm glad you brought that up because I think in the beginning when I was like, her character is tough, but sweet. Maybe sweet isn't the right word. There is some naive. Yeah, there's some naivety in there and like some not great decisions for a real badass tough cop. So I don't know if they again, intentionally chose to do that to like make her be more vulnerable and fall in love and all that stuff. But like, yeah, inviting someone over to her house that she doesn't know really much about, like disarming herself. I do think in a pinch, she would absolutely be able to defend herself. But like when Ketch comes back when they had like exchanged numbers and they she had set up a coffee date, which I would like to just do one small shameless plug for myself that me and Kevin had our first date at a Tully's Coffee. And so I was like, oh, that's so nice. And so she had stood him up for this morning coffee because she did not get a lot of sleep and she wanted to sleep in. He shows up to her house because he knows where she lives. And he does this weird thing with doors where he like doesn't close the door. And I wonder if that's some kind of like symbolism of like closing the door on one chapter and of your life. And like he wasn't ready to close the blah, 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 blah. But he brings her a coffee and they're kind of like having some witty banter and she's kind of teasing him, telling him to leave or stay. And he's like rifling through her panty drawer, kind of like opening stuff up and and I'm like, no, like make yourself at home, Jesus. Like, God. And I thought that was weird. And then vice versa, like when she goes to his place for the first time, this was before he has a lot of furniture in his house and he's very like transient and kind of sketchy, that she doesn't see that as a red flag. And then before she finds out how they had met previously and what his actual background story is, she goes into his apartment. He has more furniture there and she opens up this drawer in the kitchen that has all of these toys, kids' toys. There's Power Rangers, there's Transformers, Hot Wheels, there's all this stuff in there. And he gets like very offended. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. You can rifle through her panties, but she can't touch your green Power Ranger? Like, that's not how that works.
I mean, like, we understand why later, but like, yes. I will say that even though it wasn't a red flag for her to like not see him anymore, she did question him about like the state of his apartment. She's like, this is where you live? Like, she definitely peeped that it was not a normal situation, but homegirl still went on a date with him.
Yeah,
but
several.
I wrote in the notes, like back to the coffee date, I was just like, how is she upset about trying to get some sleep, but then willingly takes the black cup of coffee? Like, oh, great. Were you not just trying to go back to bed? Like now you're drinking caffeine. Yeah. And then I wrote, it just really bothers me how he's just in her apartment and they don't know each other like that. Like, yeah. It's just weird. Like, who's the writer of this movie? Because
I didn't write it down. I will let you look that up if you'd like. I even though I think Caviezel is attractive in this role, in this kind of era with that shaggy hair, that doesn't mean that I'm like necessarily attracted to his overall character. I don't like mysterious people like that they don't answer questions thoroughly or just like upfront when people like skirt around answers and stuff and don't give you a full answer or like something that's very misleading. I don't have time for that kind of bullshit. So the fact that he was just, yeah, all I do is walk around all day. Like I wake up, I walk around the city, and then I come back here and I sleep. And the fact that she was very okay with that is odd to me.
yeah,
So
especially as a cop, like
yeah.
you should be striving for someone with a job. So the writer is named Gerald D. Pago. I don't Pago. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looking at his credits for writing on IMDb, he has a lot of TV movie credits.
Look
and it
at
explains
you.
so much to me, like in my opinion. It's like, oh, no wonder. Because yeah, up until where's Angel Eyes? Up until Angel Eyes, all he did was TV movies and TV series. So prior to Angel Eyes, he did Message in a Bottle, which is a movie, I'm guessing since it's a screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a good chunk of And Then Phenomenon. So, okay, he has some movies, but not a lot.
But you're right. Good chunk is TV movie. And the dialogue reads like a TV.
Yes, this should have just got stalled at Lifetime.
Like, agreed.
Back to their romance. So I was rooting for them. Despite the red flags, I was still interested in how this was going to play out. Mm-hmm. And I think the beautiful parts that they probably should have leaned into more were their backgrounds, like her family drama and trauma and his losing his wife and child in the accident, forgetting all that stuff. That's the more interesting stuff to me about the movie and the more compelling stuff.
Did you think that it was odd that she goes to the... So we kind of danced around this, but in the opening scene of this movie, we're at a car accident, and Jennifer Lopez is talking to someone in the car saying, stay with me, wake up, we're going to get you help, and they're kind of fading in and out of consciousness. Well, that person is Ketch. But at that time, he was going by, his name was Stephen Lambert, and his family had gotten into a really bad car accident, and his wife and son passed away. And so, not being able to properly cope with that, he moves out of his house that he lived with his wife and child, left everything as is, and then goes to this little, not studio apartment, I don't know what you would even call that, like a
nice apartment, actually. He had some furniture and stuff.
It was very spacious. I love those like open concept brick blind wall apartments, but that's a different thing. But so there's a moment where once Jennifer Lopez finds out who he is, when she gets his name and Terence Howard runs him in the database system, they find his address. She goes to this empty house that's been abandoned for about a year. And we see kind of some scary, creepy-esque elements of just a abandoned house as is, lost and stuck in time, where cobwebs and dust have formed over pictures and TV. They were celebrating their son's birthday that day, and there was like a rotten birthday cake on the kitchen table.
Ooh,
that was still there.
That.
Oh yeah, and she like goes into the child's room and like looks at his stuff and looks at the pictures. I found that scene to be, again, like I thought that they were building this up to something else that
suspenseful and
more
thrilling.
exactly more suspenseful and thrilling. And so just for her to casually be like, I went to your house, I went to the cemetery where they are, to kind of bring him back to reality, because that's when she puts the pieces together of like, he is disassociating from this and he is in denial about this happening and has this like gap in memory from this accident and is trying to create this like new identity. And God bless her for the fact that she wants to continue working with him on their relationship in that, because that's a lot of work that he's going to have to do to like overcome that whole trauma.
Yeah, that scene, I was like, the house, it bothered me because I was just like, how has this house not been broken into or squatted
she just
in?
walked in the back door.
Yes, that too. Like the door just opens, so it's like it's been unlocked. Like, but that bothered me in general, which is like another unbelievable thing. It's like, but we don't. I don't think we have a sense of how long time has gone by. Like if it's just been like a few months or a year or 3 years.
I want to say it was given at some point when he goes to Eleanor's house to like drop off groceries, who I don't think that's his mom, maybe?
No, that's his mother-in-law, so that's his wife's mom.
Okay.
Because when she talks to Sharon, she's like, my daughter and my grandson.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I think she had hinted that it had been a year since the accident. But yeah, it's weird that like the house has been untouched, and that you would think maybe like family, friends, or someone would go in to like clean or take care, some kind of maintenance. Who knows?
And like when they go to the jazz club and the guy recognizes him, like, were you checking on him at all, trying to see like if he was okay or like, you know, how he was coping, or like any of those people who knew him from the music realm, like how are you stepping in as friends? Like, and I feel like this is just again the downside of this movie, because there's just so many questions that I feel like we shouldn't be asking or don't really need to be if it was written well enough.
Yes, exactly. There's so many what ifs and whys.
Why? Yeah. Just why?
Yeah.
Why? I do want to talk about Sharon's family, because I really enjoyed Jennifer's performance of when she goes to her brother's house and he had hit his wife, and her reaction to him and them having to hold her back and stuff. I was like, oh, shit's getting real.
Yeah, their whole family dynamic is very complicated. I think the whole reason why Sharon goes into police work was kind of in the home and environment that she was brought up in. But in addition, it's caused a lot of turbulence and unsettled tension between her and her father. And so at one point in the movie, Sharon is invited to go to a ceremony where her mom and dad are renewing their wedding vows. And she was very resistant on going, knowing that there's been a lot of family problems. And even so too, like when she gets mad at Larry, her brother, for hitting his wife and kind of repeating that cycle of abuse, she's like, she throws that great line that so many people have said, like, you're just like him.
Yeah.
But then he was like, well, look at yourself. And I think that was a good thing to notice too, that both of them have unchecked anger issues from this trauma as growing up. And I didn't like how it was resolved. I am so angry at this ending, and maybe not all movies need to have a happy ending, but I want to leave you space to either follow up on that before we get there.
To the ending? The complete ending?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I do want to go back though to her and Ketch's relationship, because I did note that I feel like the contrast of her hardness or toughness and his softness was like refreshing, because it's usually the opposite. I feel like typically like the girl is softening like the tough guy, or, you know, women always want to fix the broken man, in a way she is, but he's a softer kind of broken versus like tough. I've been through some stuff. Like she's actually the one who's like been through some abusive stuff and violent stuff. He unfortunately has been through loss. So it's just a different kind of issue. But I mentioned it earlier. I do want to talk about the sex scene.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
I wasn't prepared. Like, I didn't think this wasn't a movie I was going into thinking like, oh, there's going to be some fireworks. Like, again, the trailer maybe played a role in that, in misleading what kind of movie it was. I was not expecting a sex scene. I do love a good outdoor nature sex scene, a really good one, but it has a lot of nudity. Well, not a lot, but it has some. Jason's lyric, it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. But I also did notice that I feel like you can see that Jennifer Lopez is like wearing like kind of a nude suit. So I feel like it was shot poorly. So they could have done that more justice, I feel like, than they did. And I feel like it happened too soon, kind of.
Yes. Yeah. Not to sound too judgmental, but I mean, I know we both like talking about this stuff, but I think we both come from different perspectives of that.
Yes.
Like y'all know that I'm a bit of a prude. It's not like I dislike sex scenes, but I like them to be either like tastefully done or purposefully done. And I was surprised. I figured it would happen, but I figured it would happen at one of their residences. I didn't think it was going to happen outside in a public park
where she mentions like he could get arrested for, or like it's not legal for him to swim, or I forget what she was harping on him about. But
I don't know. I thought, if anything, that it would be in the water, not on the bank of the water with lots of sand and mud. But yeah, I mean, I liked that scene though. Overall, I thought it was kind of cute that they went swimming and they're very playful. And she said, "Kiss me in a place I've never been kissed." And he like grabs her by the foot and kind of like yanks her up and kisses her there.
Yeah, that was cute.
So I thought that was very playful. And we did finally get J-Lo in somewhat of a bikini, but not in like a tropical location with a pile of money and a cocktail in hand. So, but we did also overalls, baby, and a cute little overall set. It was before they went out on the picnic. It was a little like panning montage of them dating, and they like go out to this diner. I don't think it was the one that she got shot at, but they go to like some restaurants, and you see her in just very like plain clothes. But I was like, yes, overalls.
Also, she has on a lovely oversized sweater at the lake water place park scene when they're picnicking. Also, she wears a turtleneck in this movie. I wrote that. I don't remember when. I think it was towards the end. And then, oh my god, the speech she gives at the like party after the wedding renewal.
Yes,
I was like, thespian. Yes, you better act, Jennifer Lopez.
Yes,
because I thought she was about to like run his shit down and be like, "Fuck you guys," and she totally had me where it flipped, and it was like an endearing story about her family, and I was like, "It's like, god damn it, that is good." Like,
yes,
you had me.
That's not what I'm mad at about the ending. I really liked that part. I was very much hoping that her and her father would have some kind of like bridge connection back because he turned around to say, as if he was going to say something to her. But I don't know if it's just one of those like, I'm a tough hardened Chicago dad and I'm not going to cry or like be emotional in front of my kids. And so he just kind of turns around and goes back upstairs after that. But I was really hoping that there would be some moment where he would say like, you know, why don't you come over next week or something like that. There would be some little small door open for them to bridge that connection, but that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with her not fucking with her family because I think it's bullshit that they're upset at her. So
Oh, I totally agree. I absolutely agree. I think just maybe the optimist in me would have liked some kind of a small resolution, but I think that that was her way of saying like, I'm here to talk if you like I'm here I'm open to having a relationship and reconnecting if you want to. Like I feel like that speech was kind of like balls in your court.
yeah, it was very like I'm not gonna be upset about this anymore. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
so if you guys want to move on, we can move on. I'm not gonna throw you guys under the bus right now. See, I'm being very kind and nice.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk about the ending now?
Absolutely. This ending chapped my ass. And I'm stealing that phrase from you because you said it a few weeks ago and I thought it was so good. This, I could write a bitch list just on this ending and it was.
Oh my God, did you? You should
Well,
have.
I mean, I just wrote my notes. So I I watched this movie not entirely. I mean, I finished it all the way through, but I did it in small sections. So I had maybe about 20 or so minutes left of the movie when I paused, got up, and I took an evening walk and then finished the rest of it when I came back. So it wasn't too much of a break. It was maybe like a 30-minute break or so in between. And then my attitude towards the movie really shifted once I had the chance to like get up, go for a walk, clear my mind, and then come back and sit back down. So I liked this movie until I took a break and realized that I didn't really care for it after all. There were some redeeming qualities, but overall I would be totally fine if I never see this again. Um my,
Damn, wait, because you said that about ants, and like you're hardcore, like fuck ants, fuck Woody Allen,
Well,
like
I'm not fuck angel eyes. Like, I don't really give a shit about ants. And maybe it's because I had seen it before, and I had never seen this movie until last Thursday. And so I was kind of excited to see something new, a la like My Family, Nurses on the
out
Line,
of
like
sight.
Out of Sight, like U-Turn, those movies I'd never seen before. But and maybe I just had some like really high hopes. Maybe it's because we were coming off of Wedding Planner, which is so fun and like big in our upcoming and childhood stuff. So I don't know, to have Wedding Planner, Angel Eyes, and Enough. So it's a shit sandwich. It's like two really good solid pieces of bread, but shitty ingredients in the middle that you're just gonna kind of pick apart. You're gonna eat the bread instead of eat the middle, and so. Here's the part that really fucking chapped my ass. And it was after she leaves her parents' house. She gives that beautiful speech. Her dad does not say anything to her. She's like they make eye contact, and then she just goes, "Okay," and then she like walks out. She sees Catch outside, and before or kind of at the same time that Jennifer Lopez is at the church witnessing the ceremony, and then at the reception, Catch is coming to terms with his reality, and he goes to the cemetery, I think for the first time, to to visit his wife and his son's grave. And you see him in this kind of strange monologue of acceptance and speaking to them, and he becomes emotional. We get some like good acting range.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's not Catch's movie. it's it's Sharon Pogue's movie. And so I guess I don't think that he should have had that much speaking and screen time to come to terms with it. I think it's just a simple shot of him going to the grave, maybe laying down some flowers and maybe saying like, I love you. Thank you so much for what you've given me. Like, it's time that I close this door and begin a new chapter in my life. So Sharon sees Ketch outside. She like, oh, Ketch, like because they had kind of broken up and had not seen each other.
He wasn't answering her voicemails that she was leaving.
Yes. And so she starts to open up to him and says, I went to this party. I saw my dad. I talked to him and like, I don't know if things are going to get better. He cuts her off. He disregards her coming to terms with her family about her family shutting her out. And he goes, oh, well, you know what, Sharon? I went and saw my wife and son, and I told them everything about you. And I told them that I love you and things are going to get better now. I'm obviously paraphrasing the dialogue, but that was essentially it. She was like opening up to him and sharing some like really serious shit. And that he's just like, you know what? I too had this thing. And I was like, you just mansplained over her and disregarded everything she just said, diminishing her experience and then taking it for your own. And then he's like, you know what? I'll drive. And then there's this cheesy freeze frame of this stupid song of them driving away. And that's what chapped my ass. I had to put some Prep H on there afterwards. Not happy. And that's when I texted you to be like, I can't wait to talk about this.
No Vaseline.
No Vaseline.
I did note the freeze frame because we were talking about the freeze frame TikTok challenge before. And I was like, oh my God, it's a freeze frame. But I did not pick up on his mansplaining his scenario, and I did not initially have a problem with him having that monologue at the cemetery. Listening to you, like, I agree now thinking about it, it's not necessary for us to have that amount of dialogue for him to achieve that. I kind of agree about him like interrupting her or mansplaining, but I feel like we do that all the time. And I think he's so like far out of socialization norms and stuff that it might be just still like he's gonna have to do some work to get back to normal. Or some, you know, sort of like normalcy prior to the accident and stuff in terms of social cues or dealing with people. So I didn't notice that, but I think that's hilarious. That's what Chapter asked about the ending.
And I think that had to do with like taking a break, coming back to it and be like, oh yeah, this isn't all that good. And then just that totally ruined it for me. So if we're going into our last of the show where we kind of talk about if this movie was remade, do you think it kind of holds up to today? I think this movie does hold up. I think it could be something a little bit more cinematically impactful if it was redone. And the main thing that I would change is the ending wouldn't happen right then and there in front of her family's house. It would be more like he leaves her a voicemail and they go to his previous family's home that he's kind of like putting up for sale or something, like to show that he is working,
he's like cleaning out.
Yeah, like he's working on some kind of closure. He's working towards that and saying, and that's when he shares, like, I had the chance to reflect and think, and I am ready to, like, I love you, and I'm ready to try this avenue. I don't know. I just, maybe because they were like, they needed to end the movie and it was relatively short. It was an hour and a half, but I think that like maybe they were just trying to wrap things up. And so when their final meetup he's just like, oh, by the way, I did this too. I don't know. I just, if I could change anything about it, it would be that ending.
Is that all you would change though?
Well,
Or
no, I mean, I would change. I would either have it commit to being a TV movie. Like if Lifetime were to pick this back up and try again, I think that they could do a lot better, and probably like, yeah, just the writing needs to change. I feel like they need to pick a lane and stay in that lane. But yeah, you know what? Listening to myself, the longer I talk about this, the more I realize like it's not in the category of ants, but it's just in that category of like, I seen it, I'm good.
funnily enough, usually we say like, will we see this movie in theaters, like from the trailer or whatnot? This to me, like earlier with the Pumps of Butter, I was just like, I would totally rent this movie and watch it at home, like a good rainy day movie. I feel like curl up in a blanket, got a chunky sweater on or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with, I'm inspired by your ending suggestion. I had a visual as you were talking of like a montage of him instead of his windy rant at the well, it wasn't a rant, but his windy closure speech at the cemetery. Like maybe he's cleaning the house and he's, you know, doing gigs here and there at the jazz club. And
Mm-hmm.
I did like that he gave the toys to the kid down the hall. I thought
Yeah.
that was a good touch, but like that kind of stuff. Or and then maybe he, like you said, he leaves a voice message and she comes and she helps him like clean out the house and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like kind of starting, he's closing a chapter and they're starting on a journey together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would have been more interesting because it also bothered me that he was like, you know what, I'll drive, because in my mind, I was just like, oh no, they're going to get in another accident. And then the freeze frame fucked me up because I was like, oh, that's it? Like, because I was kind of waiting for like some shitty accident type thing to happen, which I think would have been a shittier ending.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I'm glad that didn't happen, but I kind of was like, no, why are you letting him drive? When's the last time he drove? Oh, wait, he was in an accident. No. Like, is his license even still valid? So, no. Obviously, we talked about picking a lane. So, yes, I agree with that. I'm trying to think do you think that this could be a theatrical release again? Like, what would it take for this movie to warrant being in theaters again versus just being like, you know what, this is good TV movie fodder? Like, how would you amplify this to be a theatrical movie?
I would make it more of a thriller, that like someone falling in love with someone that like a mysterious man that has a sketchy past, and a la like Silence of the Lambs, just like pulls a string and unravels this whole crazy background scenario.
Yeah.
But that you never see it coming.
So funnily enough, when I was watching this, I kind of felt like this was like the antithesis of Enough in a way.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because obviously Sharon's family deals with abuse, and then in sorry, spoilers, in Enough, Jennifer Lopez's character Slim is abused. But like that movie is a very like thriller type of movie. And I feel like if this was going that route, it could learn something from the way Enough plays out, you know? It can't take on that same exact, because obviously Ketch is not a villain in that way. But if
I mean, that's how I would rewrite it though, that I would make him a villain, that it wouldn't be romantic. It would be a thriller where she falls in love with someone who's in a meet cute and becomes a little, well, maybe not so much, maybe necessarily it wasn't a meet cute because it was a horrible, horrific accident where they first initially met, but kind of like that Florence Nightingale effect where like he falls in love with her because she saved his life, and almost turns that into like more of a stalker. Yeah. And again, that's not a great situation to I think that kind of movie plot has been used a lot, and some people are maybe really sick of it, especially now that we get so much true crime and it's so much constant abuse towards women. But that's one thing that I'm excited to talk about enough, is that we don't necessarily see it through a male lens. We see it through a female lens and a female perspective. And so if it was something like that, I could definitely fuck with that, where J-Lo can still use her like badass coppery maneuvers to fuck this guy up.
Yeah. Okay, so I listening to that, I have my answer now, because I'm on the other end of the spectrum, where like you like the cop kind of part of it and her toughness, and I'm like, I like once she's trying to figure him out. So I would lean into the like, is this a supernatural thing, and lean into him being dead maybe, and play with that. And I think one thing that was weird to me is like there's these scenes of him in an alley and there's a dog. And then even when he is going in his apartment and he like knocks on the apartment with the child, and she's like on the phone, she's like, what? And he's like, your keys are in your door. And I was like, oh, look at this Good Samaritan. Oh, and when he, there's a car outside with the lights on and stuff, and he turns them off, and the guy's like, did you break in my car and stuff? Like, he's just doing these random
I think
deeds.
that's what his MO is. Like, he's just a Good Samaritan. So
yeah, but like, if they leaned into that more, I think
that he's like a guardian angel.
Yeah. And then that makes so much sense, like why he winds up saving her and like kind of always being there at these serendipitous moments and stuff. And he helps guide her to heal like the family stuff like she has going on. I don't know if he would be full ghost or what, but I just feel like that is more intriguing to me in terms, because I feel like in this time in the 90s and early, there's a lot of suspense thriller movies, you know? So I don't think there's besides The Sixth Sense, you know, there, and maybe like Angels in the Outfield and Touched by Angel. Okay, so there is a lot of paranormal kind of stuff, but lean into that. And that to me saves the love story aspect, because I legit was rooting for them a bit. So I don't want him to be dead and an angel in that respect, so that she actually does get a happy ending. But I think it would be more intriguing to make it a supernatural romance movie and lean into that part of it.
That's a good answer. I really appreciate that response.
Yes, I'm not dissing yours. I would totally watch your suspense.
I was just gonna say too. I would see your movie over my movie.
Oh, I would see both of them. I think we've done an astounding job compared to Gerald D. Pago. And just like Blood and Wine, like maybe we need to add this to movies rewrite and become screenwriters. Okay, so now movie snack spread and cocktail. I'm gonna go first because mine's pretty simple.
Okay.
Like I said, I rent this movie and I think it's a home popcorn kind of movie vibe. So definitely making some good buttered popcorn, whether that's a little microwave popcorn or stovetop. Not to be sure. I'm leaning stovetop because that's the way to go. And then I'm just going to go with like a glass of like Chardonnay or something classy. You know, I feel like it's a rainy day type of movie. Keep it simple. Although when you were talking about your cocktail a little bit before we started recording, I was kind of like, a like white kind of like, I feel like all the drinks I talk about are like in a martini glass, but with like an eyeball glow cube that's like blue or something. would be highly interesting to me. Or like they have like those lychee martinis with the lychee balls, and like maybe make that look like a blue eyeball. Or it's funny because the Angel Eyes poster is actually Jennifer Lopez's face and her eyes, which are brown, but Jim Caviezel or Ketch has the most amazing blue eyes. So I thought the Angel Eyes really was about him, but it's about J-Lo because she saved him.
Mhm.
Anyways, but yeah, so if I were trying to get creative, I would maybe try to make something like that. But I didn't really put too much thought into that.
Yeah, again, like I had to for the first time do or no, the second time because I think I did this for the cell where I like actually researched a cocktail recipe for this because usually I think I'm pretty good at watching something and either like taking a pun from the movie or like we'll watch something and it's a common drink that they make. Like I think her and Catch have like a Budweiser or something together. But again, like I think we said that for when they did Money Train, something simple. But the cocktail that I found, I was looking up something that would be angel inspired. So I literally Googled angel cocktails. And the one that came up was Angel's Delight, which I would absolutely fuck with. And it is 3/4 gin, 3/4 triple sec, 1 ounce of cream, and 2 dashes of grenadine for color. So it's a very, y'all can't see me right now, but it's a very like angel baby pink color.
I was going to say.
And that matches my hair and my
your sweatshirt.
My tie-dye sweatshirt. So I have the ingredients to make that. I might make that as a little Sunday night treat before my work week. But for a snack, what did I eat when I watch this? Because I watched this while eating dinner. I think I just made like a big ass salad with like lots of avocado. So I don't know. I can't think of a snack that would go with my cocktail because it's kind of a cop movie. Maybe just a donut. I don't know. We didn't get that like stereotypical
black coffee.
I was gonna say like black coffee and a donut.
But all right, I think that's. Oh, and I always love a Jeep in a movie, so I definitely had some Jeep envy.
Her car was cool.
Yeah, watching this.
Yeah, I didn't, and I'm sorry to say I did not think of a would you rather for this movie.
Ooh, which Jennifer Lopez cop would you want on your case?
Oh, I would pick Karen Cisco from Out of Sight.
Yes, I would say the same.
Yeah. I was like just trying to find her name.
Yeah, because she did her job like way better than the FBI didn't even want to give her the time of day.
Hell yeah, she did.
All right. Thank you guys again for listening to this week's episode, and to the people who've stuck with us so far. Come back for another episode of the great value version of Inside the Actor's Studio.
Yes, and seriously, if you do like us enough to stick around, take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole with us as we discuss next week. We're going to do another kind of not so many episode of the 2001 J-Lo era of pop culture next week. And after that, we will resume our next movie. And I'm so excited because we'll get to Enough in 2002.
And on that note, if you've got nothing better to do, go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen.
I'm your host, Simone.
And I'm your host, Bria. And this has been another episode of
Roll Call. And cut. That was so good.